Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hi, I'm Dr. Abdul Adamu from Data Analytica. This video is a presentation on Sharpe Ratio as a measure of portfolio performance. Sharpe Ratio is a measure of risk-adjusted return that is used to evaluate relative portfolio performance. It measures excess return per unit of total portfolio risk. Total portfolio risk is a standard deviation measure of risk. It is defined as the portfolio risk premium. When we say risk premium is the return on the portfolio minus the risk-free rate divided by its risk. So this is the formula for Sharpe ratio, the return of the portfolio minus the risk-free rate divided by the total risk of the portfolio. The higher the Sharpe ratio, the better the risk-adjusted portfolio performance. This Sharpe ratio, both the numerator and the denominator must be positive. It won't work if the numerator is negative or if the risk is negative also. It is also called reward to variability ratio. As you can see from the formula, the Sharpe ratio uses the total risk, that is the standard deviation of the portfolio, rather than the beta, which is a measure of the systematic risk, and it accounts for any unsystematic risk that the portfolio manager has taken, since it uses the total risk. That means it accounts for both systematic and unsystematic risk. The Sharpe ratio is only useful for comparing portfolio. You cannot compute a Sharpe ratio for one portfolio and be able to tell whether the portfolio is doing well or not. So it is useful if you are comparing one or two portfolios to know whether one is doing better than the other portfolio. We can use the Sharpe ratio for both expected and historical data. Expected data as in the probability data, ex ante and ex post data. And the Sharpe ratio is a popular tool because it is easy to compute. It is easy to compute. As you can see from the formula, it is the ratio of the risk premium of the portfolio divided by the total risk. Then what are the limitations of Sharpe ratio? It has two basic limitations. One of the limitations is that it uses only total risk as a measure of risk when only systematic risk is priced. Because it uses the standard deviation, it does not consider it considers both the systematic and unsystematic risk. And secondly, mere looking at the ratio itself, 0.8 or 0.7, they are not informative. Meaning, if you have a Sharpe ratio of 0.8 or a Sharpe ratio of 0.7, you cannot tell whether it is the portfolio is performing well or is performing bad. But if you can only use it when you are comparing two or more portfolio, with that you can say this portfolio is performing better than the other portfolio. Then note that it does not give any information about the economic significance of the differences in performance. If a portfolio is having a Sharpe ratio of 0.8 and another one is having a Sharpe ratio of 0.7, it has a difference of 0.1. So it does not tell us any information about that differences in the performance. So let's take an example and see how we compute Sharpe ratio. In this quiz, which we adapted from CFA Level 1 Program Curriculum 2020, a British pension fund has employed 3 investment managers, each of whom is responsible for investing in 1/3 of all asset classes, so that the pension fund has a well-diversified portfolio. Information about the managers is given below. Calculate the expected return for each manager based on using the average market return and the CAPM. That is not our concern. Then calculate the manager's export Sharpe ratio. So this is what we are going to compute using this information. These are the average return of this portfolio, this manager of this portfolio X, Y, and Z, and the market portfolio. So we use this information to compute the Sharpe ratio. Now, if you look at our Sharpe ratio formula, we have the return of the portfolio. These are the return of the portfolio. Then we subtract the risk-free rate. This is the risk-free rate is 3% divided by the standard deviation of the portfolio. These are given here. So for portfolio X, if you substitute, the return of the portfolio is 10%. You can see it clearly from here. This is 10%. Then the return of the risk-free rate is 3%. So 10 minus 3, that is 7%, divided by the standard deviation of the portfolio. The standard deviation of portfolio is 20%. If you divide, we have 0.35. For Y, the Sharpe ratio is 11%. This 11 minus 3 divided by 10%. We have 0.8. For Z, 12 minus 3 divided by 25. And for market portfolio, we have 9 minus 3 divided by 19. This is the value that we have. So we cannot do for risk-free rate because the standard deviation is going to be equal to 0 because it has no risk. So that is why we cannot do for this one. So if you look at the Sharpe ratio we have computed for these 4 portfolios, you can see that portfolio Y has a higher Sharpe ratio. So if we are ranking, Y will be 1, followed by Z, then followed by X, then the market portfolio. So the managers can be ranked as Y, Z, X, and M. So we can do this computation. If we go to our Excel, we can do this computation easily if we go to our Excel. So if you come to our Excel, here to compute the Sharpe ratio, we say this is equals to the return, which is this, minus the risk-free rate, this, then we lock it, F4 to lock it. So we put brackets. We're going to put brackets, then divided by the standard deviation, enter, that is 0.35. We'll copy it down, So those were the value that we got earlier. So this is how we compute Sharpe ratio, and that is how we interpret it. So to get more of this video, you can consider subscribing to our YouTube channel at Data Analytica. Also, we are going to do another measure of portfolio performance, which is the trend ratio, in our next video. Thank you very much for listening.